Brock Purdy's playing excellent football, but I could easily make the argument that Christian McCaffrey's the MVP in the NFL. He's that special. And I know quarterbacks are going to get the award, and Brock Purdy has the ball in his hands every play. But Christian McCaffrey, when he got traded here, a lot of analysts, C-minus this and C-minus that, and this whole narrative that running backs don't matter. Where did that come from, Baldy? Because running backs, in my opinion, do matter. They open up the game for everybody.
Well, they are less valued. They matter, especially the great ones. Like Nick Chubb mattered, okay? Cleveland goes to Pittsburgh and they win a playoff game. Nick Chubb mattered. He was the best player on the team. They built the whole offense around him. Where it gets lost a little bit is the value because they all get hurt. Like Christian McCaffrey he had 400 touches, and then he started getting hurt. And I'm worried about him, right? He's got 261 touches. They've got 8 games left to play. If you play it out and the number one seed and you win the Super Bowl. He's got 8 games. At 261 touches, he's getting 21 a game. So he's going to have over 400 touches. When he had 400 touches in Carolina, he didn't do too good the next year and the year after that. That's my concern now. I'm not wishing any ill will on anybody, but it's just the only person, you go look it up in history, because I've done all the research. The only player that touched the ball 400 times year after year after year was LT.
Wow.
The only one.
Is he the best? Who's the best running back of all time, in your eyes? It's such a loaded question, I know.
No. It's hard. Like, LT, it's hard to beat LT.
Whose prime are you taking over anyone?
Well, LT, I remember one time when LT was playing, I think Marty Schottenheimer was the coach in San Diego. But there's a preseason game. Guys don't play in preseason now. But back then, guys played. So it's the first preseason game, and LT's at tailback. They get, this is back when you get the ball on the 20-yard line, not the 25. So literally, the first play in the first preseason game, they pitch it to LT, and he goes 80 yards for a touchdown. Oh my God. He did what LT did. He just dropped the ball on the ground, walked back.
I may remember
and that was it. That was it, Bonte. Like, he didn't go into any other game.
Right.
Okay, he's still LT. He's still
ready to go.
Like, it'd be hard. He caught 100 passes in a game. You got Low Neal coming on.
Yeah.
Like, Low Neal can kind of back me up on some of this stuff. He still has the record for 31 touchdowns in a season. I'm not sure that it's going to get broken. Maybe in a 17-game schedule. Maybe a guy like McCaffrey might be able to do it. But, there's just certain things. But 8 straight years in a row, he had, like, if you combine carries and
catches, receptions, yep.
He had over 400 touches. Now, if you go and you look at history, you pick a guy, Sean Alexander, Deuce McAllister. You look at all these guys.
Wore down.
Not only you wear down, they never approached anything like that again.
Yeah. It's interesting. Kyle Shanahan said this week that Christian McCaffrey is the greatest player he's ever seen without the ball in his hand. And so you can interpret that a lot of different ways. When I watched a lot of the film study and the breakdown, they line this guy up as a wide receiver, especially in the Eagle game, and he's running 15-yard ins. And JT O'Sullivan's explained, like, you just don't do this. Like, it's one thing to have, like, a leak-out route or Texas route or an option route. It's another thing to literally line your guy up, and he has to be honored by a cornerback and a safety on a deep end. Do you think he's one of the greatest players without the ball in his hand the way Kyle Shanahan does?
Yeah, I do. Because, when he does have the ball in his hands, he's elite at everything that he does. Whether it's running through the line of scrimmage and strapping the ball to his chest. But I think when you come to the receiving part of it, I just think receivers in general are lazy. Okay? Because there's no reason why you shouldn't work every day at becoming Devontae Adams or Brandon Ayuk or Keenan Allen, like the great route runners. Why aren't you working on trying to beat that guy that's covering you? And I think too many guys just run down and, okay, it's a stop route. We'll go 15 yards. We'll come back. But, like, they're not doing enough to really win the route. There's some guys that are physically gifted.
Right.
Some guys have ankle flexion where they can change direction without losing speed. But everybody should work every day on becoming a better route runner.
That's a good point.
And college, they're running, square ins and comebacks. And, like, there's not many guys that are really working on their craft.
Right.
They're just, they're gifted. They have speed. They have, acceleration. You have good hands. But I just don't think receivers in general work hard enough at the craft. And McCaffrey does.
Yeah, going back to I'm glad you're sticking on McCaffrey here because you brought up how he runs his routes, the 15-yard routes, 10-yard routes. Was Marshall Faulk the first running back you could remember who did that in the slot? Because I remember when Kurt Warner, they lined him up in the slot. It was a game in the Georgia Dome against the Falcons. He lines up in the slot. Madden Summerall's on the game. He runs a slant, 7 yards, boom, touchdown, 60 yards. Who's the first running back you could remember who was running routes like that at the wide receiver position?
Marshall kind of changed the position. In fact, when the Patriots beat him in the Super Bowl in the Superdome, the whole game plan was we're going to hit Marshall every time, every play. When Willie McGinnis, this is what we're going to do. We're going to make sure Tabaki at safety. We're not going to let him have a free release. We're just not going to let him do it. It was classic Belichick, and it really affected the way they played the game that day.
The Marshall Faulk thing is so interesting because he starts off with the Colts. Mm-hmm. I know they ended up getting Adrian James, but I don't think he would be viewed the same had he stayed with Peyton Manning, right? I mean, I don't know. I just look at that whole thing. There was a perfect situation for him to go into with their players and Mike Martz and that system that they had going. I really fell to love Marshall Faulk, watching him 2 times a year against the Niners and doing what he did. I mean, he was a special player.
I think there's just certain coaches that just are difference makers when it comes to offense or defense or whatever. And Kyle's one of those guys, and Mike Martz was. I remember. What was I? I was doing a San Francisco Ram game, and Martz. We had to interview Mike and whatnot, and I remember he had his sweatshirt on, he had his headphones on, and I invited myself into sitting there and watching film with him, and if there's a way that you could be a coach but be in the matrix, that was Mike Martz.
Yep.
Because these guys, they're like stock traders. They don't necessarily have to know what the product is, but they have to know the way things get traded. They're looking at numbers. And some of these guys, like stock traders in New York, you ever go down to Wall Street and you watch some of these guys, and they're just looking at these sell. They're just in cut. They're just looking at patterns, and they're just studying patterns. And then they're like, okay, what is the best way to attack this pattern? And that's kind of how these guys, that's how Martz was.
How has Shanahan evolved over the years? Because I remember a year and a half ago, you were like, I don't know, man. The offense get a little stagnant, and clearly they've upgraded personnel, so I'm sure that factors in. Is it a byproduct of Purdy? Is it Kyle evolving? Has the playbook evolved a lot?
Well, I mean, I think there's new plays that get written on a whiteboard every day about who we're playing up against, playing Seattle this week. Okay, we saw them 3 weeks ago. All right, this is Devin Witherspoon in the slot. Let's okay, he is he bites on this fake. I mean, I think there's just ways that you look at defenses and you look at personnel and you look at what's available and you go, let's try this. Let's put this one in. It's like Bill Walsh School of Offensive Philosophy. The playbook never is finite. It's always expanding.
I love that. And it's always expanding when you have a guy like Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, and George Kittle. And you mentioned earlier this week when you joined us on Tuesday that Deebo could play in any era. And I agree with that. But a mold like Deebo Samuel reminds me of a Percy Harvin, right? Play running back, play wide receiver coming out of Florida. He's in Minnesota. But Deebo stays on the field for the most part. He's had his injury issues, but when he's on that field, he's physical. So that mold of a Deebo Samuel, I don't care if he's a wide back, receiver. The guy's just a playmaker who could play in any era of football.
I think so. You can play in black and white TV era. I just think, like I've said this to you before, Bonte, that guy is, he just gives this team a level of toughness. And not that Elijah Mitchell or Brandon Ayuk, they're all tough. But this guy's mentality, everybody in Levi Stadium, when he touches the ball, they're like, is he going to go because he might just run right through somebody.
Right.
He might just run him over. His level of physical toughness, because from the waist down, he is a running back. I hope he doesn't have to carry it all that much. It is exciting when he does have to, but running backs just don't have the shelf life the receivers do.
When did you first see him play football?
Deebo? At South Carolina. I remember I don't remember who the coach was at the time, but I think Spurrier was gone, so I don't know who was there.
Muscamp, I think. Maybe Muscamp. Maybe Will Muscamp.
Maybe Will, maybe. But I don't really remember who was the coach.
That's a name I haven't heard.
He's with the Georgia staff.
Time.
He's with the Georgia staff. He's with Kirby.
But I remember we went back to the NFL Network. We would always get these guys that were coming through the network, and we used to call it the car wash.
Right.
They would be in town. They do this sit down. They would do this, this show on Path to the Draft. They would do Total Access. They come in. They do 4 shows. Agent would pull them out. So I remember me and Colleen Wolfe we we were doing Path to the Draft. And maybe Daniel Jeremiah was there. So anyways, we'd heard Debo was in that day. So we were all excited, So I'm trying, I think I might even be doing a film study with Debo. I forget. His mom was there. I'll never forget. He came with his mom. And so, I'm talking to him about, what position are you, a slot or you're a wide receiver? I'm just throwing stuff out. I don't know the guys. I'm just trying to get to know him. So I'm getting nowhere. with Debo talking football.
He's very short.
So he's short and literally I'm building no camaraderie with him.
Right.
And Colleen Wolfe, she's so good. She says, so she's kind of sees where this thing is going. It's not going great. She says, I hear that you have a shoe collection that rivals 500 pairs of shoes. And he lit up. And he started talking about a shoe collection. And we won him over. And I'm thinking, is this going to be a great football player? He's more interested in shoes than running routes.
Oh no, he wants to take people's souls.
Right, and wear nice shoes. Yeah. Hey, Baldy, could you pull off that leather fit that he had on last week? I don't know if you can pull it off, Baldy. I've seen you walking into the downtown streets of San Francisco with some white jeans on.
No, that's white jeans and what Debo had on. No, but Debo's talking junk all week, and he's there to put the ball in my hands. I'll show you.